What's going on, good people? It's your girl, Dr. Brown, and the one and only.
What's going on, good people? It's the Mr. Straight out the ATL, y'all. We are live and direct straight from the deck. What goes on?
Hey, all day, all day. How are you today?
I'm fantastically well. Wouldn't change a thing. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Trying to enjoy this weather if it will only warm up for real, not just in light, but in actual temperature. But we're not.
look, we done skipped back a season just like I predicted last week.
Right.
We literally went from early spring to late winter all over again, and I'm not happy.
It did, but it's coming. It's coming. I made myself a little greenhouse with some blankets. I was very proud of myself because I have sprouts. I don't want to lose my sprouts. I'd be mad.
Don't lose your sprouts. Don't lose your whatever they are. If it's some oregano or whatnot, keep them sprouts going, man.
Yes.
What's on your mind today, Doc? What's going on your side of the world?
Well, I am very curious. I heard a lot of chatter on the interwebs. There's word that I don't know. Trump might be getting arrested next week. Very excited.
Absolutely. Word on the street is there are some stormy days ahead for the Orange Man. If you haven't heard, Donald Trump on Friday or Saturday tweeted that he heard that he's going to be indicted by the New York Attorney General on Tuesday. And the conservatives are in a tizzy. And America doesn't know what it's going to do because the former president might have to go to jail for being a freaking criminal.
Oh, well, welcome to the club. We knew that already.
The club, you don't even have to be a real criminal to go to jail for certain folks. I mean, you just have to be accused of being one. And that's more than enough to ruin your whole life and everything it is and it was. This motherfucker is finally about to go to jail for one of the thousands of crimes he's been accused of. And we have our panties in a knot. I mean, people are in a tears. They're almost in tears because this man may, in fact, be indicted on one of the many. And then their problem is, well, it's not really that big a crime. Exactly. He's accused of so many damn crimes that if you pick any one of them that isn't the one of them, everybody's upset because it's not the one. Guess what? That one's on the way too. After all the other ones he's accused of get dealt with. This is what happens when you're a criminal and you do criminal shit.
That is what happens. You know, the same people who are saying that it isn't really a crime are probably the same people who thought that, the Confederates trying to secede from the Union wasn't a crime either, even though it's called treason. So you can't try and have, like we talked about last time, you can't make the system work for you only when you want it to work for you and define things as you want to. At some point, the answer is no. No. And I think he might have an opportunity to get that this go around. And so I thought it was really interesting that he has a word out already. He was already talking about it, and he's called for I don't know if violence is the right word, but he definitely said like protest for me. This is wrong.
Because he never calls for protest. He says fight. Now he says fight. Don't be weak. Fight. He doesn't call for violence. Oh no!
We know what happened last time. We know what happened last time. Even though that was a friendly gathering or like tours at the Capitol. I'm wondering, I saw something else that I think the folks in New York are like, we're not going to stand for intimidation since Trump called for folks fighting. So we'll see how this will actually play out, because I'll tell you, Trump doing the perp walk is something I know a gazillion people are just waiting to see on TV. And that will kick off the really bad things, in my opinion. So it's a double-edged sword.
But should it kick off the really bad things in life? Because this is coming from someone who's the head of the Department of Law and Order, who tells us ad nauseum, follow the law, do what the police tell you to do, don't do anything wrong. If you're not a criminal, you won't be accused of criminal things. Guilty people plead the fifth, blah, 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 blah. You go down and listen. He's done every single one of those damn things in court, certified on paper, including lie over and over again to say, I don't have these documents. I didn't have sex with that woman. Just find me 11,780 votes because that's one more vote than I need to be elected. He did all that.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Every single bit of it. And at some point, the chicken's got to come home to roost. And you can whine and cry and complain, and you can threaten violence and every damn thing else you want to do. But remember this: Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, none of these people were indicted for any crimes. For 5, 6, 7 years, from 2015 on, all we ever heard from you people were two things: fuck your feelings and lock her up.
Yeah.
So my words to you simply are fuck your feelings and lock his ass up.
All right, it's time. It's time. We're gonna see. I'm thinking, if we can, if this is an opportunity for white privilege to show that it doesn't pay, crime doesn't pay, white collar crime doesn't pay, treason doesn't pay, hush payments actually don't pay, when all the people around you are falling, when all the people around you are being indicted and getting subpoenas, and when you get a phone call, he got a phone call and told us he got a phone call, just like he told us all the other things on how guilty he is, the things that he did, and how he really feels. I really don't think this is very different, and I'm actually curious to see if it'll actually go down, or if it's lawyers, what you call them, attorneys, making attorneys get attorneys, the MAGA attorneys, to be able to pull him out of this one. I don't think so.
I mean, because even the latest attorney has been subpoenaed in the document case. It's happening over and over again. It's a consistent theme. And at some point, you didn't go to law school to let this orange man throw your life away as he continues to trash you and everybody else on his road to damn doom, because it can't be headed anywhere else. I mean, it's a hot bowl of lava, but at some point it's got to hit something, and it looks like it's finally hitting the wall. I mean, just don't be the part of law and order when you the most criminal. We literally have him signing checks to pay off a porn star from the Oval Office. Okay. Ooh. Okay, you hire the same people who are upset that Barack Obama asked for Grey Poupon for his hamburger, had the nerve to wear a tan suit while he was the president and give an address. You people specifically are who I'm talking to. Donald Trump, okay, Barack tan suit. Just remember all your outrage behind that, okay? Donald Trump wrote a check, several of them, in fact, from the Oval Office to Michael Cohen, to a porn star whom he had sex with while he was married and his wife was home with their 1-month-old child. Christians. Okay, this happened. All that happened. Okay, that's what he did from the White House, and that's what he, in fact, will probably be going to jail for this week. Okay, law and order people. That's what happened. Deal with
it. Here's the other piece of it. That we found out there's another tape in Atlanta, in Georgia, that we didn't hear about with what's his face? It was our last. I can't think of his name right now. I'm never good at the name. Sorry, y'all, but I promise this stuff is true. But there was a tape that apparently Trump asked one of our outgoing legislators to do something.
It was the former Speaker of the House, Dan Ralston, who died. That's interesting in and of itself, but who's gone now and who can't refute the testimony, because he can't say, hey, he didn't mean that, because because he's dead now. So the only testimony is that dead man's tape that actually happened. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. So my point is that it's looking like, I was talking to my folks the other day, and it's looking like, Black women, these Black, district attorneys are the ones that really seem to be holding Trump accountable. And wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if these Black women were able to seal the deal? Remember that no I was telling you about a couple shows ago? The answer is no, you cannot do that. It's a beautiful thing to see Black people, Black women holding other folks accountable. It's unfortunate that apparently nobody else seems willing to do so. But I will tell you that it also played out recently on this, this talk show where a Black woman was interviewing this white woman who wrote a whole book about being woke, right?
And listen, it's glad you went back to that, right? Because that goes back to something we spoke about last week about people in privilege and people never hearing no, and people, you know what I mean, being homemakers, and what's the value of that. And then in herein, you have this homemaker who's at home all day homeschooling a 7 and a 9-year-old with a toddler, who's going to explain to the rest of the world and us working folk who are out here living in the real world every day, dealing with crazy, ignorant folk like herself. Okay? Mm-hmm. And she's going to explain to us what woke is. When that sister put on point, she didn't have an answer for it.
It was a beautiful thing to watch. And the lady knew that it was going to go viral. And the beauty of the quote was, so, for those who may not have seen the footage, I'm sure you have, this Black woman is interviewing this white lady homemaker about her book. She wrote a book, and the white lady mentioned, I have this whole chapter on woke. So the Black lady was like, well, before you go on to talk, why don't you go ahead and explain what woke is, so we can all be on the same page as you talk about this chapter in your book. Lady had nothing. She stumbled over herself. She had no answer. She knew it was going to go viral because she knew she looked like a fool. So how is it, what I don't understand is how folks raise themselves to this level of being experts with zero exposure, zero experience, never really been around Black folks, aren't out in the real world, aren't watching the news, but are experts and are writing books. It's a scary thing out here.
Because let me tell you, same said privileged lady got to write an article in Newsweek about her whole experience since this viral moment has happened, in which she forgot how to define woke, in which she wrote a whole book where she dedicated an entire chapter on defining the word woke, right? She blamed it, believe it or not, on the Black lady. She said before she went on air, she heard an off-air conversation with the anchor and someone else talking about what she called breeders, and she said they were expressing leftist woke ideas, and it routed her, and she felt herself beginning to have a panic attack. So when she was interviewed, she got nervous, and she felt a panic attack coming on, and she didn't know how to respond because that mean Black lady called her a breeder and a homemaker. Oh my God. That's what we're dealing with, folks. These folks are not honest. They have no intellectual intelligence. They have no integrity at all. All they can do is play the victim. All they can do is play the victim.
Tears. White woman tears are the bane of the existence of this country. And if she doesn't have the backbone and the wherewithal to stand up for her own shit,
I mean, you wrote a whole chapter, right? You wrote an entire chapter in your book dedicated to defining the word woke. If I'm asked to define said word that I dedicated an entire chapter of my book to, I would think I could come up with maybe 4 or 5 words in succession that explain what I meant. But the problem becomes you don't want to be called racist, and you know it's racist. And when you've already seen that the person interviewing is smarter than you, and they're going to come right at you on them same racist points, you know you have no way to wiggle out that argument. You can't get out the argument and not look racist. So now you cry and play the victim. It's not going to work. We're too smart. We've been here for too long, man. That one ain't going to work no more. Them crocodile tears, no, ma'am.
No, these white women homemakers who swear they know more than everybody else, and they overprotect their children, they overprotect their husbands, they breed MAGA people. Right. They breed people who are not weak enough to be able to defend their own positions like everybody else out here on the planet. They're too weak to defend themselves while you got Black folks out here getting shot on the street for doing nothing.
Literally.
Right?
Literally.
But you got Black women taking on all this hurt, all this multi-generational pain from having to defend their lives, but you can't even defend your book. You weak. Maybe you shouldn't be breeding.
Exactly. But breeding is their last resort, because according to them, they're coming across the border in droves, and all we do is have babies, and we're trying to take over the world. And speaking of taking over the world, now it's looking like Black Greek organizations may in fact begin to be banned from Florida campuses. Ron DeSantis and his continual war on culture, well, let's be real, his war against blackness, has now had a law that's being passed that essentially states that campuses aren't allowed to be financed by the state if they promote diversity, equity, racial diversity, things of that nature. So this is what we come to.
I don't understand. I don't understand that. So does that mean, do the Asian organizations have to go too?
Yes, Jewish organizations as well. Yes.
So explain this is what I don't understand. How is it that, and then I also read something the other day, they want to ban girls. I don't know if it's in Florida or not, but just the trend is what I'm going after. They want to ban girls from being able to talk about their periods in school.
Yeah, before the 6th grade, they can't talk. They won't be able to talk about it in the school setting before the 6th grade, irregardless on if it started for the same young ladies before the 6th grade. Because of course, everybody's different. Nobody's body is the same. Nobody's on the same clock. That's what we're dealing with.
I'm not understanding, but like, so you wanna modify and control what's being said in school so that people won't be able to define what you're doing as fascism? It's clearly fascism. We've seen this in history across the years, but again, it's that double think. It's that the rules for thee and not for me, or just depending on what I need at that time. It's a sickness, and it's it's bigger and it's louder and it's more amplified. And it's becoming institutionalized, re-institutionalized in front of our eyes, and it scares the shit out of me.
Right, because it's like we saw it. We knew what the Tea Party was about. It was abundantly clear to those of us who are real with ourselves exactly what the Tea Party was about. All Donald Trump did was become the megaphone for that racism. Once that was mainstream and became acceptable, look at my black. Oh, what are they doing? I remember back in the day we could beat them, and then when the cops came, we'd have the cops beat them and throw them into the car and da 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 da. Well, once that was accepted and wasn't shot down to no end, it was over, man. Y'all think he trumps the end? Please, the next version, you wait till the pretty good-looking, smart, sweet, sophisticated, great-talking, educated Donald Trump comes along. Right. That played football, so he has real black friends. You wait till that one comes along. That's going to be the damn problem, not these wide open ones. But the fact that the wide open ones are thriving so much is what's scary, and it should bother everybody. Because we're, like I said, we're like, let's be honest. For a lot of black folks, that let's take out historically black schools because you're surrounded by African Americans. But for a lot of black folks that go to mixed colleges, they're very small, very, very, very small minorities on those campuses. You know, those schools fight to get 5 and 10% acceptance for African Americans. They fight for that. Right. And if you start to take away the organizations, the only organization these kids can truly be a part of and be themselves, those kids are going to stop going to those institutions. Don't fool yourself on what they want. Just understand where they're going with all this and stop pretending things aren't what they are. At some point, these local political issues have to become more important than social media. They got to. Because that stuff is going on in Florida is unreal to me. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy just to see that, you know, and thinking about how close, again, I say this all the time and I'll say it again. I don't think people know how close we came in 2020 to really having just being taken over. We came so close. And I think the system ultimately worked. All the backstops. It took a lot of them. Thank God there were so many backstops, right? But like, I think it ultimately worked. But like, I hope people don't think that that was like the last push. Right. So you got the same dude calling for the same people to show up for him and be violent because he's being wronged. It's repeating itself in our lifetime. It's not the next lifetime. It's not in 5 years. It's the next election cycle. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's why 2024 is going to be really important. And I hope that people take this anti-voting stuff very seriously because they're coming for your kids. They're coming for the education. They're coming for Black people, and they already come for women in their wombs. And it's one of those situations like when they came for so-and-so, I didn't say anything. When they came for so-and-so, I didn't say anything. When they came for so-and-so, I didn't say anything. When they came for me, there was nobody left.
That's it.
And folks got to pay attention.
And you know, how long have we been saying that? We saw when it was Trump. It was like, you know, they came for the Muslims. They did the anti-Muslim ban. Yeah. Then they shut down this. You know what I mean? When the China flu came, they shut down. Oh, no people can come from Asia. And then look how the anti-Asian hate rose in this country. You know. Then they went after the Hispanics with the border. I mean, come on, folks. We knew they was gonna come after us eventually. Right. To keep in mind, Supreme Court has affirmative action on the ballot here in a couple of weeks. What you think? What you think gonna happen?
And they've already snatched the voting rights. You know, saying that's old news. You know what I'm saying? So
y'all better wake up, man. But look, Doc, let's move into more pleasant times. Cause like you said, we live in some real times, man. Folks better wake up and get real. I think you said you had an exciting week this week, and you want to discuss dating with the darker brown. Let's get to it.
For the record, I think the title is hysterical, just because, like, really, okay. But yes, I'm in the dating world, and I went on a date, but it's different though.
Okay.
I went on a date. It was like I used to watch Millionaire Matchmaker some years ago, you know, where like you're like intentionally matched with someone. Mm-hmm. So like that was a scenario. So it was like my first time doing it in that way, you know, talking with the little matchmaking people, and I didn't know this person and meeting up or whatever, and you know, meeting this person for the first time. I mean, it was really interesting. I had a really good time, and what was interesting thing is like, I feel that, you know, I didn't quite know what to expect. I mean, like, you know, you see somebody on paper and like, okay, check, 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 check. But until you actually see somebody in person and like actually speak to them, it's like, it's different, right? But like, I think it's a good job. Like, I definitely see why I think we were matched. Similar interests, you know, like to travel, you know, similar life experiences. I was able to like use my vocabulary, which I don't necessarily do all the time, you know, who I'm talking to be perfectly honest. And it was cool. And it was like, you know, it just, you know, it was cool. I would say, well, I'll stop there. What do you think about that? You know me for a long time. What do you think? What do you think I would show up in a situation like that?
Right now, it sounds like a bunch of green lights to me. It sounds like because knowing you, it would have ended the flattery wouldn't have lasted nowhere near this long if things weren't good. So let's just start there. The fact that there are as many positives as there are is a huge positive for the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are definitely benefits to it. I think I see now the value in almost having like a third party involved. Because when you start doing stuff for yourself, it's when you start messing up stuff because you think you know this, you think you know that, but like having an objective party, I thought was really interesting. I mean, I do feel like I don't think he was interested in me or anything. Neither of us asked for either's information. If you wanted my information, they would ask me for it, right? It doesn't mean we didn't have a good time. It doesn't mean we didn't have anything in common. I can't say he's necessarily like my type per se, but I don't even know if I know what my type is anymore nowadays. But I will say for the record, he said he was 5'11", and I knew no one's 5'11". It's not a real height, which means he's probably either 5'10" or 5'9". And I was right. He's maybe a little bit taller than me. So
see? Did you let him know about that, by the way?
I didn't say anything, and really only saw him like when he first stood up, when shook his hand, and then when he left. But I ain't say nothing. But I knew. Come on, son. No.
See, that's why.
Let me just tell you: don't ever tell anyone you're 5'11". It's a dead giveaway that you are not. Okay,
it's just a man thing. You always you have to give yourself an inch or two because I mean, if you're 5'5", you're not gonna sound 5'5". You're gonna sound 5'7", 5'8". So if you're 5'8", you're naturally gonna be 5'10". If you 5'10", you 6 feet. You know what I mean? Like nobody's 5'9". You 6 feet. At 5'9", you probably 6 feet tall. At 5'10", 5'11", you definitely 6 feet tall.
Do y'all lie about other parts of your body too? This is sounding real familiar.
For a lot of them, probably so. Everybody doesn't have to. That's the unfortunate part, though.
Yeah, well, if you're willing to lie about your height, you're probably willing to lie about something else too. I don't know for a fact. I'm just saying this based on our conversation today. I'm not making any. I don't know this dude like that. Right. So I really don't care. But I'm just saying, come on, bro.
But you know what? I guess that's not really a bad thing in our world, and I'm not taking the man's side. I'm just only saying in our world because that goes back to sports. You know what I mean? In football, that goes back to sports, football and basketball. You know what I mean? There was that prototypical size. So if you didn't equate to whatever a quarterback was supposed to be, you always going to put an inch or two on top of that. So you were that. So when it comes to height, I honestly say that goes more back to athletics than it does anything else. I don't think a lot of niggas' egos tied up to that. It is, but it ain't. You know what I mean? Not like other things.
Well, if you say so. I mean, I will feel like, so the date was fun, had a good time. The food was interesting. You know, he eats interesting food. I eat interesting food. But I will say that it felt like more like a colleague conversation, you know? And it's funny when we finally got to like the kids conversation. That's when you're really getting down to the nitty gritty. Since it wasn't matching, right? It's supposed to be like matching for like intentional relationships. This isn't just like, I'm on a date. I think you're hot. Let's go hang out.
Hopping the sheets. Exactly.
Yeah. So it was interesting. You know, I was older than him.
Okay.
So that you know that is a factor. It doesn't not a factor when we're older, but yet and still, we're talking about kids. From my perspective, it is definitely a factor. Right. Plus, his siblings. He's a younger of three siblings, and his siblings are married and have kids, and so like he's got that standard, right? That he's like going for. It was funny because he was like, "Well, I thought I wanted 3," and I bet she's probably watching to see like what my, you know, or whatever it was. I think like 2 or whatever. And so I was like, okay, look. You know, I would be more than willing to help somebody like raise their own or like a surrogate. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I'm just telling, like, I'm not putting no miles on this body. I done made it this far. I'm not now going to throw it all to the wind and be like, fuck it. Now let's have some kids. Nah, man. I'm trying to maintain the goods as are. So, I don't know how that landed, and I'll also be here for adoption. But you
Right.
know, I don't know how that landed. But I'm just some people are so locked, and I don't know this about this person. I'm just saying from my experience, some people are so locked into what they had or the way it's supposed to be. I was on a date with somebody else, and I was mentioning to this person, like, yeah, I could totally see how people could be married and live in different houses. Like that's totally legit to me. It's like, but what about the children? What about raising children? And I'm just thinking, you just have more than one house. Like you just open your mind for a second. You're so, and that one thing I'm not is traditional. And so I don't know how it was received, but I can tell you the date that I had the other day, I definitely felt a shift in energy and interest at some point. I don't know.
You think you scared him off?
I don't know. It could have been me, but he also said he had some stuff to do that night, right? So he could have been. And so I don't want to take it personal, but I do want to say there was definitely a shift. It was like, okay, oh, I should be wrapping this up soon because you were not like into this conversation like you were before. So.
But you know what? The good thing is, you know, today's world, it's not easy to find someone if you really want to find them. So regardless on what was going on in his mind, if he jumps back to the conversation, he can get you if he wants to. You know what I mean? That's legit right there. And just be open to that. Like I said, you never know what's going on with anybody, who, what, when, why. Because we never want to look too desperate.
Right. Exactly.
Especially in today's world. Something that, you know, you may not have been even considered desperate years ago might be extraordinarily thirsty now.
Yeah, for real.
That's why I thank goodness I'm not out there, because I would not know how to act. It's a scary world out there today.
There are a lot of things I'm glad we're not like young now, because the shit we used to do, no, doesn't need to be public. It doesn't need to be amplified. I don't need, and the influences they have nowadays, man, we'd have been done if we'd been influenced on top of the shit we were already doing. So like,
look, I was talking to my nephew about that. I was like, one thing about our time was like, you know, a fight, a slap. You know, it didn't even have to be a fight. Maybe somebody got slapped and somebody didn't retaliate or something. You could always lie in our day. X, Y, and Z didn't happen, yada, yada, yada. Like you always had that, because it came down to the two people that was there and any one or two witnesses who may have been friends with somebody that may not. Whereas the flip side now, that shit gets posted on social media and your mama see it, your auntie see it, their friends see it. It might fuck around, be a Sharkeisha situation, and now the whole world done seen it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different world now. And I can imagine coming up in time. It's different, man. Good luck to them.
I know that a lot. When I was growing up, I used to be like, oh, when they used to tell us, oh, you know, when you get older, you're gonna miss high school, you're gonna like miss days. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so glad now that it's like I don't miss it. I had a fantastic time, and there's no way you could get me to go back. And I don't envy the things they have to go through now. I see why they're so sad. I see why there's so much depression. Your world sucks and your future sucks. At least, I mean, and at the end of the day, we talked about this the other day, I'm in the game now, instead of being on the outside, knocking, either trying to get in or having to reject it because it's not working. I've slipped in, so now I have options.
Right.
I got equity. You know what I'm saying? But I can say that now. I don't think they're going to get equity or nothing coming up soon, just because of the way the world's working right now.
It's all good. So long story short, I guess that means the dating adventures of Darker Brown are going to continue in the upcoming episodes.
I'm looking forward to sharing. So yeah, one day in the box. Check next.
And that's what I'm talking about with talking. I guess we can wrap it up right there. You got anything for the people before we get up out of here?
Nah, man, keep your plants alive so they'll be pretty in the springtime. Don't let them die. We got, I think, one more week to go, y'all, and then it can be spring. Let's get it.
And make it happen, man. Keep them sprouts alive, folks. And on that note, we out this thing. Y'all take it easy, man.